Hi there. It's been a while since we looked at Zoom settings, and Zoom has included some cool new features. This is as of November 11th, 2020. Sorry, November 3rd, 2020. And so I'll just kind of go through these quickly. The waiting room, that is the place for your participants to be placed while they're waiting for your meeting to start. And you might notice that there's now an edit button here, and that allows you to customize it so that somebody attached to Natomas Charter automatically comes into your meeting versus waiting in the waiting room. So you can set that if you like. You can also customize it with an image, a little bit of text. That would be a great place to put some information for what your students should do if they are stuck in the waiting room. For example, they could send you a Hangout message. These settings, the next couple, are locked by admin. Those are our security settings based on passwords, so I'll scroll past that. This embed passcode, what that means is when you have that turned on, when you copy your meeting link, it automatically includes kind of an encrypted password in there so that somebody clicking your link is able to jump in there. So here is authenticated users. Those are users that we have connected to our Natomas Charter accounts. You can turn that on. What that means is that your students are not going to be able to come into your meeting if they have not signed in to NCS. And you can also toggle that on and off in your actual meeting settings. So that might be a place where you turn it off if you have a guest speaker or parents coming into a certain meeting, but you might generally by default have it on just for that security feature. We don't necessarily have users using the web client, but basically what that is for people that don't have Zoom installed, you can allow them to use the browser client. So I'm just going to keep that off. Approve or deny to specific regions and countries, I just have that off. When you schedule a meeting, the default video. So think about when you have a student that is waiting in your waiting room and you admit them, do you want their camera on or off? And I think that it's always a good practice to just have it off just in case they've left the room or, just for privacy reasons. I like to jump into a meeting with my camera off too, just to give me that second to kind of orient myself. Audio type. Zoom recommends that we actually mostly use computer audio versus the telephone audio because I think it has to do with lagginess when you use telephone. So user not logged in. Oh, I need to relog in. Anyway, so the default should be computer audio, not both. Allowing participants to join before the host, there's a new feature here, so I'll tell you what this is. Basically, what that means is that generally, if that is off and somebody tries to join your meeting, it says this meeting is not active, and then they have to click the link again in order to access your meeting. If you allow them to join before the host, that basically gives them a little notification saying you're waiting on the host, and you can jump in they can jump in as soon as you activate that meeting. So instead of having to keep trying your meeting, allow participants to join before hosts. Just lets them know that they're going to be popped in whenever you open it. And this new feature here basically says that you can give them a time limit. So if they try an hour before your class, perhaps they get just this meeting is not active notification. But if they join 5 minutes before class, it just says, hey, you're waiting on your teacher. So that's just a nice little feature that lets them know that you're coming. Personal meeting ID, there is a room that Zoom has always ready for you, and that is your personal meeting room. And that can be changed by IT if that's something that you need to do for whatever reason, if it's compromised and your room needs to be changed. But basically, when you use your personal meeting room, it's like at the same link every single time. And here it's asking, would you like that to be the default when you schedule a meeting? That really depends on how you're scheduling your meetings. I have mine turned on because I do a lot of instant meetings, and you'll see that there's an option here. I just click the meeting, boom, I'm in there, somebody can come join me. But most of you will probably want that off. You're probably interested in getting a fresh link every single time you create a new class, a new purpose, a new scheduled meeting. Good practice having participants muted when they jump into your meeting so that it's not just loud and people are aware that they are unmuted. Would you like to get a meeting reminder through Zoom when you have a meeting coming up? That's all going to depend on how you're setting up your meetings. But if you are scheduling your meetings so that they're active at certain times of the day, then that might be a nice feature where it pops up and says that you have a meeting coming up. Encryption, chat, that's a good thing to have on. You can toggle that on and off within a meeting, but it does need to be turned on here in order for your students and yourself to chat. You can prevent your participants from saving the chat. I think that's a great practice. You can turn on private chat, but that is something that you can also turn off in the meeting. Turning off autosave, there's no reason for most of us to have the chat saved automatically, but you can toggle that on if you need to. Would you like a notification sound when somebody jumps in or leaves? This can be really distracting. I tried to do a demo with that turned on, and it was just very, very distracting. So that's up to personal preference. And would you like everybody to hear that sound? Somebody leaves, somebody comes, somebody leaves, somebody comes, or just the hosts and co-hosts? And this has to do with the phone notification or phone setting, which I don't have activated. This one I believe is a pretty new feature. Yeah, this is a new feature, file transfer. So this is another way that you can send things to your students through Zoom, but you do need to have that turned on. You can decide some limitations to those file transfers. This feedback to Zoom is a pop-up that comes up when you leave a meeting. It's a good practice to have that off because otherwise you are making a tab open up on other people's computers every time they leave your meeting. Oops, I'm sorry. That was the end of meeting experience. I apologize. Feedback to Zoom. I guess those are the same thing. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. But yeah, it's the feedback survey. Just turn that off. Don't put pop-ups on people's computers. If you're planning on having a co-host, co-hosts can do things like muting, unmuting, that sort of thing during a meeting. You can have that toggled on. You can turn that off in the meeting. You can turn that on in a meeting. Polling, this is where you can send multiple choice, true, false questions to your participants. You can turn that on. I lose my toolbar a lot when I'm presenting, when I'm doing an extended desktop where basically I have it connected to a projector or TV and my computer. So keep that toggled on so that you don't lose your toolbar while you're presenting. Showing Zoom windows during screen share. So this allows you to kind of show people what you're seeing on your end. So I like to have that on, but you're welcome to toggle that off. Screen share, this is a setting that you can turn on, turn off during a meeting. So you can decide who is sharing their screen in an actual meeting, but it does need to be turned on behind the scenes in order to get that option. Disable desktop screen share. This is a setting that it doesn't do what you might expect it to do. What this does is that when you are sharing your screen, it allows you or your users to display your entire computer desktop, not just a tab, not just an application. And so generally you want that off because then it allows you, let's say that you're connected to a projector or TV, it allows you to display everything in your Zoom meeting that you're seeing on your TV or projector. So I like to have that off. Every once in a while it turns on and then I can't do my entire desktop when I share and I have to come back and change it in my settings here. Annotation is basically writing on things. You'll get a little toolbar like this one here where you can annotate over top of things. And so that is something that you can do within Zoom on any website or application that you have open. And it's saying, would you like annotation on? Oops, I have an eraser here. I just clicked escape to get out of it. Annotation, do I want it on? And do I want to be able to save those annotations? So it's kind of a good feature. That's the same, similar as the whiteboard. You want to be able to save that, which is great. You annotate over something and you're like, hey, I want to keep this to put on my Schoology, to send to my students, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. This is a new feature. I haven't played with it yet, but during screen sharing, you can allow others to control the shared content. So how I think that this is going to work, I just need some participants, is I think it's going to allow people to click things on my computer, which I think is going to be a cool feature. I just need to try it out. Nonverbal feedback. This is where you click in your participants panel and you can send something saying that you are, stepping away from the computer, you're smiling or whatever. And then reactions, those are a little button that shows up and allows you to give a thumbs up or clap, and so on. I do think that this is a good practice to have this feature on, where basically if you kick somebody out on purpose or an accident, it allows them to come back. I've had several teachers reach out to me and say, hey, I accidentally sent somebody out of my meeting and now they can't come back. Excuse me. So having that turned on is good practice. Renaming themselves, the students, when they rename themselves within your meeting, it actually only keeps their names renamed during that meeting. So that's great if you want to send them to breakout rooms, you want them to rename themselves based on, their interests, something like that. You want to do like one session with nicknames. The cool thing is when they leave that meeting, their name goes back to their default. So I like to have that on, but you can toggle that on and off in your meeting. Do I want profile pictures hidden? I do not. Do I want to report people to Zoom? Yeah, just have that on. If there's a Zoom bomber, you can report them to Zoom. Breakout room. This option has changed because remote support is updated. So that is a feature. I found this button, remote support. It's the next one. It looks like I have to have one or the other, but not both. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. I haven't used it yet. Anyway, breakout rooms allows you to split your students up into groups during your meeting. Remote support, I read up on this, and this is basically where you can ask for permission to control a student's computer. They click yes, and then you're able to click things on their computer, but it looks like it can't work in conjunction with breakout rooms. So I'm still fiddling with that. This is a new update. Closed captions, those do not work the way that we might expect them to. This allows somebody to type closed captions. It doesn't actually provide closed captions for you. But if you want a solution, let me know, because I can do that in Google Slides by presenting and then clicking closed captions. Language, that is another closed caption feature. Far end camera control, that is, I looked this up. This is where if you have a webcam, you can allow somebody else to zoom in and out and move your webcam. So I have that turned off. I don't have a webcam connected. Virtual backgrounds, you'll see that I popped in a couple of NCS backgrounds here, including the gym. There's one of the new Pact Academy. So you're welcome to use those in your background. There's a new feature when you're in your meeting and you turn on your virtual background. If you have stuff behind you, you can pick the color to blend in with. So kind of play with that if you haven't recently. It works a little bit better when you're in a meeting. Video filters, these are fun. These are kind of like little Snapchat mustaches and stuff. So that's a fun little thing that you can do in your meeting by clicking the little arrow next to the video button. This toggle here allows you to know if you have guest participants in your meeting. So this is kind of how we can tell if our students are logged in or not, because if we have that turned on, it'll say guest, and you're the only one that can see it. So the students don't know if they're coming in as a guest. This is about phone calls. This one here is about emails. I think that is one of the last ones. Oh, join from browser. So this is where if you have somebody that does not have Zoom installed, they can still access your meeting through a browser. Live streaming, this is if you're uploading your lessons directly to YouTube. Request permission to unmute. This one's kind of cool. This one is basically Zoom sends a permission option to a student and says, hey, would you like your teacher to be able to unmute you remotely? So imagine that you have a student that just has a really hard time unmuting themselves when you're trying to get them to participate or speak. You can, they can give you permission to unmute them manually. So you will say, I'd like permission to unmute you. And then the student will say yes, and then you can mute and unmute them and not just have that request to mute. So that's an older feature that used to be enabled, and now they're giving students permission to allow that. When attendees join the meeting before the host, notify. So I get notifications when people pop into my meetings. So it's an email notification that says so-and-so is waiting in your room. That's really nice, because then it just kind of tells you that somebody's waiting for you. Notify when a meeting is canceled. Alternative hosts, those are set in your meeting settings. Those are similar to co-host. The difference between an alternative host and a co-host is that an alternative host you set beforehand. We're using like NCS Sub, Star Academy Specials teachers at Pact. You're adding Alicia, basically adding people that might be in need to run or co-host your meetings. And so the reason we're using NCS Sub is because when somebody is logged into the NCS Sub account and they click into your meeting, boom, they are now a host if they're the first person, or a co-host if they're the second person. So it gives them the ability to do breakout rooms and such. So this is just basically saying that if I remove a co-host, they'll get an email. So our NCS sub probably has 4,000 emails from Zoom as we're adding them to all of our meetings. And I think that might be the last one. All right. So this was a lot. Zoom gives us a lot of features. Some of them have to be activated here at zoom.us in the settings before the meeting, and then you can toggle them in the meeting. Some of them, this is the only place you can modify them. And so if you have questions about that, let me know. I've fiddled with most of these settings. There's just those two that I still have to play with because they're new. Have a great day.